Murkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Ms. Kitka, for being here, making the long trip. You are not a stranger to this committee, and we appreciate the contributions that you provide on behalf of Alaska Natives throughout our state. I want to focus a little bit about your suggestion that we need to expand the Universal Service Schools and Libraries program to include Head Start, GED programs, and online college courses. You know, it strikes me as I go around the state, you go out to some of these very small villages, and the school is the only place that has access to internet. Well, the school's not open on the weekend, the school is not open at night, and the school is not open during the summer. And in most of our small villages, we don't have libraries. So what happens on the weekend, at night, and during the summer? Where is the access for not only the children, but if you don't have a public library, there is no access in these communities. Am I over-exaggerating or overstating the case?
No, I think you're exactly right. I think that there is a lack of access to many of our residents in our villages, especially our small villages, and that's part of the reason why we want the schools and library program expanded, because people, if they provide that for the GED or other things, they're actually in violation, and common sense doesn't make sense. But also that there really is a need for the BIA to set up a special program to lower the cost on that. We have in some of the villages, you have the school with the program, you have a tribal entity providing social services, things for children on that don't qualify for the lower rate, and so they're paying double the amount. So we need to lower those costs in the other areas.
One of the things that I hear as I'm going around also is in many of our schools, we have a Head Start program within the school itself. And yet you've got this firewall here where the Head Start program cannot avail itself of the capabilities that the school has, which makes no sense to me. You would think that we ought to be able to resolve that. Ms. Sohn?
Senator Murkowski, my understanding is that Head Start, if they do hold classes in an E-rate school, they are permitted to use that connectivity unless the state says otherwise. And USAC actually has a list on its website of states that permit Head Start and GED classes to use when they use the facilities of a school. So it actually goes state by state. It's not an overarching rule against it.
That would be something to look into then if you have a situation where if you've got job training, GED or Head Start, and the states can make that determination. Let me ask about your recommendation with regards to the New Market Tax Credit program and effectively setting aside a 10% of New Market tax credits for projects that would benefit Alaska Natives and American Indians, with a focus specifically to the broadband, because I think you have identified what our biggest impediment is. Everybody recognizes that we need to have this broadband access. The real question is, okay, how do you make it happen? Where does the financing come from? So the idea of greater public-private partnerships, I think, is something worth considering. As you know, we have not fared well in this state, but again, if there were a greater opportunity to be competitive with a carve-out that would focus on an area where we have extraordinary need when it comes to our ability to access broadband amongst our Native American and Alaska Native communities. The question to you in terms of how far we have gotten with this proposal of kind of this 10% carve out or set aside, is this something that you've been working with NCAI on? Where are we in just moving the idea forward?
Well, we've had discussions with the White House. As many people know, President Obama traveled to Alaska the end of August of last year and early September, and saw some of the great needs in our state and made some commitments of some critical things that needed to be taken care of by the federal government. The whole issue of focused new market tax credits as one way to tackle some of those commitments of the national imperative, then the Arctic on that was something that they were very interested in talking about. And we've had conversations with the new markets program manager within Treasury, and we do think that there is an interest and a willingness to use that program to expand and meet the needs. That's why we put it forward as far as a set-aside that includes half of that set-aside for telecommunications and half of it for other things such as other infrastructure needs. We have tremendous infrastructure needs, and we believe that the Congress really needs to make that a national priority next year when new administration and a new session of Congress on that, and include Native Americans' infrastructure needs and the telecommunications need in that. In the interim, I think what's immediate question mark to us is what they're doing in combining the 3.5 billion to do the 7 billion, and if that goes on, it's a huge lost opportunity for Native Americans in that whole cycle. We understand we don't want to slow down what they're doing, but if there's a way that they could carve out in that 7 billion some portion of it for Alaska Natives and Native Americans on that, for us to have an opening to put together proposals in there for broadband and other infrastructures, that's something that could be done this year. Really urge the committee to develop legislation that is totally focused on Native American needs on infrastructure with a focus on broadband, and consider either in the appropriations process or in the omnibus bill this year, but really tackle that it's a lost opportunity for Native Americans not being able to access that.
Well, I appreciate you leading on this and look forward to working with you and the committee on this.
Thank you, Senator Murkowski. Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, on the docket, we had a bill that Senator Tester